This podcast is a member of WGPRN, WildGamesProductions.com.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
First there was the original.
I thought it might be nice for kids. Keep them off the street, you know.
Then the basic.
This is a simple game.
Then the first version of the advanced.
Good, clean, wholesome fun.
Now the hammer comes down. Welcome to THACO's Hammer, the podcast for 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. And now your hosts, DM Glenn and DM Corey.
Hey everybody, it's DM Glenn with my buddy DM Corey.
Hello.
Hey, and we're here with the inaugural edition of THACO's Hammer. Have a seat. There's
2nd edition in
the
the house.
Yeah, that's right. There's drinks in the fridge. See, you brought your own dice. Let me take a look at the character sheet. And we will get on with the show. This show is all 2nd edition all the time. Right, Corey?
Absolutely. Nothing but no.
Absolutely.
But its main focus is.
Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about your experience with gaming and 2nd edition?
My background?
Yeah.
See, I started in the 80s. My cousins got me into D&D, and I've been playing probably the whole time since the 80s, mainly doing DMing. I've started in the box sets, the lovely blue, baby blue, BECMI, and moved on, and then I found the wonderful world of 2nd edition, and that's when my DMing started, and I haven't left ever since.
So you went straight from basic to 2nd?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's all right. Myself, I started also in the 80s, and I went straight to 1st edition. That's where I started, and I did some gaming in there, but my majority was done in 2nd. So now that, I've moved on to 3rd and everything like this. I stopped at 4th, and now I'm going backwards. I like basic, but I'm getting to know 2nd edition again.
We love having you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's, this is one big reacquaintance.
There you go.
And, and I want to really one of the ground rules here.
Sure.
It's about other editions. We do occasionally talk about other editions, but only in comparison with 2nd edition. We keep the focus on 2nd edition for the most part. And I'm going to try real hard, and I hope you do too, Corey, of not really, denigrating other editions.
Sure, no bashing here on THACO's Hammer.
Yeah, everybody, whatever you want to make you happy that makes fun play, you go ahead and do it. We're going to keep this as 2nd edition.
House rules set in stone.
Absolutely. Let's go to the first thing we got. It's hits and crits.
What do you feel like doing tonight?
I don't know, Ange. What do you feel like doing?
Oh, we ought to do something at Saturday night. I don't want to go bowling like last Saturday. Oh, what do you feel like doing tonight?
I don't know, Ange. What do you feel like doing?
Hits and crits.
And here we are in the hits and crits section. And what have you been doing this week, gaming-wise? Corey?
This week I've been slaving over a Word document, cranking out more of my campaign for my campaign face-to-face game that I have. I'm actually running 2 different games every other week. They hop over each other, so I have 7 people per group. It's a little big right now. I'm trying to get rid of some people, but they just won't go away. But I've been running them through my homebrew world, and just had a game last night. It's pretty fun.
Cool. How'd it go?
Let's see. I think I've actually invented horror as far as the level of Cthulhu insanity horror into a 2nd edition game without actually making any crunch or any rules for it. I had them all terrified beyond belief, running through a abandoned city of crazy people who have been magically altered by wizards and clerics who have been taking criminals and villagers and, tentacle arm here, a crab claw there, making their own experiments. And the player just happened to come across the town.
Oh, wow. And I know how hard it is to actually put... Horror is, to me, is one of the hardest genres to do in any game.
Absolutely.
And to get your players that, terrified, their characters and the players that terrified, that is really something.
Yeah, I used the first part of the campaign to get rid of their spells and get rid of, their heals and a lot of their potions. So it turned into a survival horror, running from building to building, barricading doors, running on rooftop to rooftop during the rain. So,
wow.
Yeah, they were terrifying.
Oh, wow. That's great. I wish it was there. Wow.
How about you, Glenn? What did you do this week?
Well, mainly I've been just kind of boning up on the second edition in and of itself. I managed to find a Player's Handbook and a DM Guide. Mine were long gone, but I managed to find a couple of the used bookstore, and I got the 2.5.
Oh, okay.
The black border one, because I kind of like that because it takes care of all the corrections and the errata between the two of them. And they're also integrated well. I mean, each chapter follows in the same book. You go to alignment, the alignment's there. You go to combat's there, which is really nice. And revisiting after all these years, it's been really interesting. I didn't realize how many things were optional.
Oh, yes.
I think I opened the proficiency section. There's this big, in red letters, optional.
Absolutely. Well, if you look at second edition, it's the only edition that actually printed books with the word option as part of their title. I mean, they have the player options and the DM options.
Yeah, they want to keep it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, when I was in the day, it's like everybody was of the mindset, oh, they published it, we got to use it, or somebody's going to have to use it, or something like that. And being back into the earlier editions now, I realize that you really don't need that. For second edition.
You don't.
It's nice to have it, and it does add to the game. A lot of them it does add to the game. A lot of it doesn't, but at the same time...
And not every DM plays the same. Not every DM runs their game the same. So, this DM might use these three things, and this DM might not. So it allows a lot more versatility for play styles.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the day, it was like, we're not using proficiencies? What? This is sacrilegious. What?
Right.
It's like, no, you don't need proficiencies to play this game.
Absolutely.
You can go right back over. I mean, that's why it's so compatible with first edition. Is why I like. To me, second edition is like you've got this layer of options and stuff, and if you scratch a little under the surface, you'll see first edition.
Yep, absolutely.
And that, to me, that's still the core engine of it. I mean, everything still works the same. You still got the 6 stats. You still got the descending armor class. THACO's been around a lot longer in second edition.
Oh, yes.
And if you remember, the Rules Cyclopedia had skills, which is damn close to proficiencies.
Correct.
So you really don't have to go that route if you don't want to. I mean, we're going to try and deal with this on this podcast with people who do and don't at the same time. And people who do show how they don't have to, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So that's what I've been doing, basically just getting myself reacquainted with second edition this week.
Great.
And now we've got, this is our segment, we're going into our segment called It's in the Book, which is about basic rules.
You ever go to school, stupid?
Yeah, and I come out the same way.
Is that your idea of an idea?
It's in the book.
Okay, it's in the book. What do we have this week?
This week, I think we have magic items and weapon destruction, and what I believe it's coined as retributive strike.
Okay.
It is it's found here in the Dungeon Masters 2.5 Dungeon Masters Guide on page 122. It's listed here that occasionally characters find it desirable, useful, and necessary to destroy a magic item, and it describes to the DM, that the breaking of a magic item should result in something more dramatic than the breaking of a vase or a window pane. And the DM is absolutely, as an option, justified in describing a dramatic explosion of force or a small whirlwind or, as they say here, a foul stench or whatever seems most appropriate to the moment. And I thought this was a great option to use because in my campaigns, I've used this before, and it's become something that I stand by with all my magical items because, in my opinion, if a magic user is going to spend the energy and the spells and pull from the weave or whatever in your world is done to put magic into an item, that magic is stored. So to me, it would be like a bottle of, say, water. And when you use that item, you would uncap the bottle and pour a little magic out. Well, if you happen to ever see a video or have done it yourself, you've shot a bullet into that bottle of water, there's an explosion. And it's the water. And in my opinion, the magic would work the same way. I mean, it's a great option for destroying magic items when, you know, maybe you need to do a little bit more damage and, as they say, be damned with the consequences.
Yeah, well, the corollary is gunpowder, really.
Sure.
Because gunpowder itself, if you just put a little pile of gunpowder on the ground and light it, it's just going to burn.
Yeah.
That's all it's going to do. But if you put it in something and confine it, and then light it, that's where you get the explosion because it's like in a confined space. So you have like a rod or a wand which has confined magic in it. It's the same thing.
Right.
You know, and another corollary is like shaking up a 2-liter bottle and opening it.
Yep.
You know, that kind of thing. It's going to come out. Of course, every once in a while I have the characters, oh, it's going to explode. Poof. It was a dud. Okay. just to keep them on their toes. So your magic in your world is like a lot more like volatile?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think if you're able to create a giant blistering ball of fire that can do damage to the point of murdering and killing somebody in a 30-foot area, I don't believe destroying an item that holds that kind of magic should just poof.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, but you know, every once in a while you got to throw one of those in.
Absolutely.
Just to keep them on their toes.
Yeah. For the DMs listening, I'll read this section here. It just says real quick, for some items, particularly some staves, there's specific rules that define the effects of the item's destruction. Such cases are rare and effects are devastating. So, you know, you might only have it in a 1-foot area. It might only damage the wielder, or it could be 5 feet or 10 feet or whatever. And it says, you know, they gave an example here for 1d8 points of damage. But depending on the magic item, I'm sure like a staff +1 wouldn't be such an explosion as, say, maybe breaking a staff of magi over your knee.
Yeah, I can understand that. And also, like, think the more things that the item can do, the bigger the explosion.
Absolutely.
So you've got a wand of wonder that does like 5 different things. Well, the explosion is going to be 5 times as big as that +1 wand over there.
Absolutely.
Or something like that. And also can't you do it like in accordance to what the thing does? What would happen if a wand of frost was broken?
Oh, you mean like the explosion would be the magic itself inside like a frost explosion or an ice damage?
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
You know, it explodes and the caster's like in a block of ice.
Sure. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to have a wand of frost and break the wand of frost to have it do fiery explosion damage.
Yeah. The wand of fireballs, on the other hand.
I do not want to be in the area. Yes,
no,
absolutely.
Not at all. That's like a tac nuke, a mini tac nuke right there. So why don't you tell us how you handle your magic items being destroyed, things like that. Right now, we only have the email address, which is thacoshammer@gmail.com, but you can also leave something on the 2nd edition forum in Dragon's Foot, or purpleworm.org, right?
Absolutely, Purple Worm.
Purpleworm.org.
It is a website devoted directly for 2nd edition players and 2nd edition rules.
Absolutely. Leave us a comment anywhere there. And that leads us into our next segment, which is people skills.
The face is familiar.
It's mine.
And so it is.
Oh, yes, of course. It stands out a mile, doesn't it? He's so common.
A little lady comes in here and starts throwing her butt around. What is that supposed to do?
All right, forget I said anything.
Maybe I will.
Well, that's pretty good.
Don't tell me you weren't looking at it.
Well, that's not half bad.
She's giving it right back to you.
People skills.
People skills. Okay, we got a fighter kit. What kind of fighter?
We're looking this week at the Myrmidon.
Myrmidon. Now, what's a Myrmidon all about? How does that differ from like a paladin or a barbarian or something like that?
Essentially, the Myrmidon is the ultimate soldier. Soldiering is his life. Says it may be a high-ranking officer or a career sergeant. He may belong to one of your nation's armed forces, or just maybe a mercenary who's done nothing but devote military or combat to his life.
Okay, he's a lifer then.
Absolutely.
He keeps re-upping. Okay, and what's so special about it?
Well, in the Complete Fighters Handbook, you actually get a bunch of different proficiencies and non-weapon proficiencies that usually does not come into a normal fighter's repertoire as easily as it does in a Myrmidon.
Okay.
Essentially, well, one of the benefits of the Myrmidon is he can actually spend all of his starting gold on whatever sorts of arms, armor, or equipment he chooses. If when he's first created it is agreed that it'll be part of a specific military force, like maybe he's a spearman,
okay,
he's required to buy that equipment.
Okay.
Also, for secondary skills, he gains the Armor Bowyer Fletcher, the Forester, the Groom, the Hunter, the Leatherworker, Navigator, Sailor, Scribe, and Weaponsmith.
Wow, that's a nice little set of skills there.
Yeah.
Now, for people who don't know, including me, how exactly do these kits work?
With the kits, you would pick a fighter, as most people would when they're playing D&D, and you can actually have it specialize into a specific type of fighter. Right. Like you said before, the barbarian or the ranger. You're going for a fighter, but you're looking for something that's specific to what kind of flavor your character is.
Do these have like prerequisites, like maybe a certain level or points or slots or anything like that?
Some of them do. The Myrmidon does not. They don't go by level, but some of them need specific things for them that they need to have in order to use that kit. They must. Some of them you might have to take specific. For example, if maybe there's a sailor kit, you'd need to pick up sailing.
Right.
Right. But there's no actual prerequisites. But a lot of the kits that have been used by a lot of the players, which a lot of the people have said is a bad thing about the kits, is it actually makes the normal fighter or whatever class it is that you pick a little more powerful.
It does.
Because you're focusing and you're making a specific type of class.
Okay.
But the Myrmidon actually has a very nice role ability. I mean, as a fighter, that's what this class is. It's the epitome of a fighter. Yeah. And in a group, I mean, he's a career soldier, so he's going to be your frontline fighter and soaking the damage up.
He looks kind of like the fighter subclass greatest hits.
Yeah, that's exactly great.
He's got some of the ranger, he's got some of the paladin, it's got some of the cavalier, all that kind of stuff.
And now, because
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was saying that with the role of the character, depending on how you play your alignments, this character could actually go either way, because some of the kits don't work very well depending on certain alignments. But with the Myrmidon here, I mean, you can go from one end being like a staunch defender of your nation's military, or if you're going to go the more darker route, you could actually take him into the fired soldier / mercenary. The scoundrel.
Fighter for pay. Yeah.
Absolutely. So he's a well-rounded kit depending on what kind of world or what kind of area you're in.
Okay. Cool. Have you ever used any in your campaign?
Actually, I have used one in the past. The player who was using it got a little too excited with his military career and took it off, and he met an untimely end. But the class does work well. It's not too overpowering, but it adds a lot of good role-playing possibilities in the party due to his military structure and whatnot. He could be camping with the lazy halfling, you can get some nice role playing between a staunch military guy and a lazy, dirty halfling, a la the Odd Couple.
Oh yeah, the closest I ever came to that was I had a paladin in one game. It was the Night Below campaign. I remember that.
Nice.
And this is the first time I ever played a character who was older than the usual character, like near retirement age.
Right.
And he was the paladin, but I was bound and determined to show people paladins aren't stereotyped. So I played him as an old British campaigner, like this. And I remember when we went up into the Purple Hills and we fought these wyverns up there. He just bored people with these stories. But he was a hell of a good fighter, let me tell you. And he was very much like that Myrmidon, the career soldier. Yeah. Come on, chaps, let's go and kill this. That kind of thing. But yeah, Myrmidon sounds a lot of fun. I don't know why I never used it. It sounds like a lot of fun. It's probably one of the better kits I've seen.
Yeah, it doesn't give too much of a bonus, but as far as like fighting or combat bonuses, but it's more based for proficiencies, and there are some abilities for the Myrmidon, but nothing that would outbalance a clap.
Yeah, an all-around fighter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kind of thing you get basic training plus military experience.
Correct.
Cool. Well, and that is in the Fighter's Handbook, you say?
The Complete Fighter's Handbook.
Okay, good. Well, look for that one. You've had any experience with Myrmidons? Give us a shout out at the THACOsHammer@gmail.com.
Chime on in.
Get my emails confused here. Let's go on into Rule 0.
Rule 0.
One would think you've been doing this all your life.
We'll remember you said that.
I know. I'm sure you hate me just enough.
Rule 0.
Rule 0 is kind of DM rulings and techniques, things like that. And you had some kind of tip on keeping track of character sheets in a campaign.
Yeah, it was a discussion I had with another friend of mine I thought would be pertinent because we were discussing specifically on 2nd edition. Even just by looking at a 1st edition character sheet or a 2nd edition character sheet side by side, you can see that there's a lot more detail and a lot more things on the sheet. Again, a lot of them are options, but they do use them. I find it hard to keep track of all of the information when you're running, like me, for example, 7 players, but even 4 players or 3 players, it's still difficult to keep track. And as a DM, sometimes you need to know what the saving throws of your players are, or also know where their hit points stand, or how much items they're carrying. Because we discussed it, and I came up with an idea. A friend of mine told me he photocopies and keeps copies of the character sheets behind the DM screen, and I thought that would be too much paper juggling.
Really?
Yeah, to have the notes in front of you for the campaign or the adventure, to have your books open, and then to have to shuffle through 4 player character sheets, I thought maybe having all of them on the table might be a little too much paperwork. So,
gotcha.
What I started to do is actually take some 3x5 cards. Always a good thing to have stacks of these laying around. I've written down pertinent information about the character because I don't need to know how many torches they have in their backpack. I don't need to know that they have a pair of hard walking boots or whatever. I write down the pertinent key information, and what I do is I stand them up along the inside of the DM screen. And then when an effect or something would come up on the character that would affect them, say maybe, they've been touched by a specter and they've lost an XP level, I will take a Post-it note and attach it to the DM screen above.
You attach it to the DM screen?
Well, it's a Post-it note. Yeah,
right.
I would attach it to the DM screen above the 3x5 card. So it's essentially you're stacking your effects on top of the on top of the 3x5 cards above them.
Oh, okay.
So you can read them. But it's just a way that I found to keep track of character sheets for your players while you're playing, because if I know that the character needs a 14 for his saving throw versus magic, I can see, because not all of us, any DM will tell you that they fudge. You got to fudge the rules. From time to time, if something comes, you fudge a roll, whatever you do. And sometimes you don't want to kill somebody right away because they're having a bad dice night or whatever. So keeping track of the character sheets I found behind the thing on the 3x5 cards helps me keep track of my players better, so they enjoy the game better.
Oh yeah, that's one of the down. Well, not really. Second edition, I can still get away with like writing them on the battle mat in front of me behind the screen.
Oh, that's another way.
Yeah, I mean, I just take the vis-a-vis and go, monster does this, monster does that, this hit points, this is attack. Okay, go. Something you can't do in the later editions, unfortunately. But yeah, I can see the index cards, and that makes a nice file built up.
Sure,
too.
Absolutely.
Okay, but okay, that's good. That's good. What do we got next? Magic Fingers.
Eeny, meeny, chili beanie, the spirits are about to speak.
Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Magic Fingers.
Magic Fingers. I sound like a pervert when I say that for some reason. I don't know why.
Magic
But yeah, I want to talk about how second edition changed the spell lists. Before that, we had we had a separate for magic users. We had one for clerics. We had one for illusionists, and now they get into druids. Now they get into different spell spheres and different categories in the clerics class, where they just go, okay, we're going to throw them all in a bunch and just label each spell. Okay, this is this sphere, it's this thing, and then like the classes would say, okay, you pick your sphere you need, and you can't use the ones from these, and that's how they, as opposed to having separate spell lists.
Yeah, I found that second edition is the start of the divine versus arcane magic that seems to be prevalent in the current Dungeons and Dragons and even the other editions that have been after second. But this is when they've decided to lump everything and put them in two categories, divine or arcane.
Yeah, they're basically categorizing the classes rather than the spells.
Correct.
Now, what's your take on that?
I actually like it. It's a lot more concise. It's a lot more versatile. I know it's actually simplified the way the spells are, but it's weird to call it more versatile. But to me, for somebody who, isn't happy with the normal sandbox and likes to build on his own, say I had a druid that maybe, he prays to the druid god and maybe this god. Well, that god might actually grant him spells that a normal druid wouldn't. Well, instead of having to go through, say, the magic users list, I can just add another sphere.
Right.
And it's more versatile that way. It seems, especially with the clerics, second edition with the clerical spells and the divine spells, the different gods have different spheres available to their priests, and it makes it easier when you're working with different priests of different gods, because then they would have access. It's more versatile for the player character, in my opinion.
Okay, well that's the only thing that bothers me is it makes it a little kind of harder for like a first time player to get going if they want to play like a magic user, because in basic and first edition it used to be, okay, you want to be a first level magic user, well, you get one spell, here's the first level spells, pick it.
Yes.
And you just had that. Now it's like, okay, you have to pick a sphere. You can pick it from these spheres, but not from that spheres. And I haven't looked. I don't think there's a list divided into like spheres and however the clerical ones do it.
It's in the back of the player's handbook.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so they do divide it that way.
Yes.
But it just seems to be like quite a few more steps that the newbie has to take.
Yeah, it is. But if a character's, I agree, it is a lot more, many steps. But for versatility speaking, if you have someone who's played role-playing games before, and everybody knows the archetype Gandalf or what have you, they might want something a little different. And to me, the versatility actually opens it up for them to do that. But yeah, it is a little bit more work for the player.
Yeah. So they're really playing up the advanced part of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons at that point.
Absolutely.
Although people like me who get thrown right into the deep end. Hey, we're playing Advanced. You want to play? Okay, fine.
Yeah, I've noticed also that with the simplification of Arcane/Divine versus all the separate ones, it's a lot easier also when they started doing the kits to just drop in a sphere here or a school here, and even in first edition, all of the spells for at least the wizards were listed by schools. Yeah. So in a way they were kind of separated, but it was still wizards versus illusionists. But this way it still makes it as easy to me for the clerics as it always has been for the wizards.
Okay. And have you had any kind of like changes you'd have to do to this for your campaign or anything, or just use it as is? Depending on what you've got planned for the players or anything like that?
No, I haven't found any reason to change it. I actually found ways to maybe add a spell here or there without debating, where it should go, what it should.
Okay. Is it easier for you or the players to make new spells this way?
I think it is, especially if you have somebody who's focused on a specific sphere or a specific school of magic. They can focus on it and see in the list, without looking through a whole third level list and going, wow, what do I need to make? Right. They could actually look at the school of, say, evocation, or look at the school or the sphere of plant and go, I think I'd like to make a spell that does this because this is severely lacking. Right. And it to me, it helps focus, but I haven't found any problems yet. How about you? You found any problems?
Not at all. Not really. I just sort of use it straight up. And, we've just had, the normal wizards and magic users and clerics who just want, okay, well, all right, I got to look through a few more things, but I think I can handle it. And it also kept them kind of focused on what their character is about and what their character can do magic-wise. Interesting. Instead of trying to go, well, I think okay, I'm in this sphere. I know this because a lot of character, transmutation tells you what it's all about in the name. Absolutely. Okay, and you can go, okay, yeah. So you get all these spells that transmute things. Necromancy, I mean, yeah, okay, right there, Absolutely. Okay, I'm dealing with the dead. Okay, and fine.
Not only that, you don't have to, sort through evocation, alteration, any of the other ones while you're focused strictly on transmutation.
Now playing the devil's advocate, earlier editions would say, well, yeah, but we never had to worry about that kind of stuff.
Right, absolutely.
But if you do worry about that kind of stuff, it makes it a little more flexible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to plow the middle ground here. So,
one of us has to.
Yeah, it's like, it's good, it's bad, it's make up your own mind, okay? Yep, but right. we happen to think it's pretty cool. And give us your opinion on Dragon's Foot Forum 2nd edition, or THACO's Hammer at gmail.com, which is THACO with an O, not a 0 this time. I should make that clear. So people are going to type 0 and go, why can't I get on here? Well, or their email is bouncing or something like that.
Right.
But anyway, what do we hear? We are loaded for bear.
Loaded for bear.
Bet you don't have a pair of these, Earthling.
And for the big critters, sometimes you got to bring out the nuclear weaponry.
Loaded for bear.
And this week we're loaded for bear with big swords.
Big
swords, like Conan type swords. The bastard sword, the khopesh, the flamberge, things like that.
Wow, big swords. We got a whole list of them. Whenever you think medieval Dungeons and Dragons, any sort of medieval game, there's weaponry. And a lot of people always go for the sword.
The big-ass sword.
But sometimes you need bigger than just the sword. You need a big sword. I thought it would be interesting to speak on the broadsword and the khopesh and some of the larger weapons that are in the weapons list for for second edition. The big damage dealers. Historically, traditionally, they're used for breaking armor, as the Scottish Claymore was, breaking through that terrible English plate. A lot of them were used to dismount horsemen and get them down to stabbing range, as it was said. In D&D, pretty much the same thing, but not so much plate mail as breaking through that Gorgon hide, or getting into the meat of that orc.
Chopping that dragon's head.
Absolutely. Bastard Sword is the first sword on the list in the weapons list, and it's listed twice, one-handed or two-handed.
That's
depending on how you wish to wield it.
Well, it was also the other name for it was hand and a half sword.
That is
that
correct.
Tells you right there.
That is correct.
It's one of my favorites, by the way.
It's a hefty weapon. Longsword's only a 4-pound weapon, but a bastard sword is 10 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's like more than double the weight of a longsword. It's a medium weapon, and speed factor is variable depending on how many hands you're using with the weapon. It's 6 for a one-handed or 8 for a two-handed.
Mm-hmm.
The damage is also variable depending on the hands. It does a 1 to 8, which is a nice damage for small medium, but it does a D12 for large. So you're breaking armor.
Wow.
The two-handed is 2 to 4, which is better than a 1d8, obviously, by 1. And for the damage on the large for the two-handed is 2d8. So you're looking at between 2 and 16 damage.
Guy's spamming a can.
Yeah, even a first level fighter, it's reroll time. Somebody gets a good hit.
Yeah, I think even a dragon would just take a step back for a minute when he saw something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He'd give him like a moment's thought before he attacked.
Yes.
Now, where does the claymore work in there?
The claymore fits under the two-handed sword heading.
Okay.
Wow. The two-handed sword, claymore, flamberge, actually is 15 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Well,
a little heavier. It's a large weapon, so it falls in the range of pole arms because it's usually about 6 feet in length. Speed factor's 10, so in my group we call it the go last sword, simply because you're going last with a speed factor.
The go last sword.
The go last sword. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does 1d10 damage for small medium, and it does 3d6 damage for large.
Jeez.
It's a powerhouse. It's one of those, you start swinging at initiative 1 and it's slowly going over your shoulder as you're chopping down. You get time to pull your hand off and look at your watch, maybe take a nap. But when it hits, you're cleaving someone in twain.
But if you got the goblins lined up in a circle there, man, it makes it really easy.
Yeah, it's the juicer.
Yeah,
It's the Jack LaLanne greatsword.
It's the Popeil Swordomatic. Wow. This is why my dwarves carry them. They're the only ones with enough strength to do it.
Mm-hmm.
My God. And you do have to have, what it was, like 16 strength just to pick it up?
Yeah.
Or something like that? And Kopesh. What? Sounds Middle Eastern.
The Kopesh is actually an Egyptian weapon. It is found in the Player's Handbook as well, but it's also in the Arms and Equipment Guide, and it's given a bit of a description here. It's the Egyptian weapon is approximately 6 inches of handle and quillions.
Wow.
The blade extends straight out about 18 inches from the handle, curves into a sickle shape for another 2 feet, adds another 18 inches to the overall length. It's usually made of bronze or iron. This is the, in my opinion, the Hassan chop.
Yeah.
Super huge curved scimitar that we always see in the cartoons or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's the large Egyptian beheading weapon used. It's to take down horsemen or camel riders since it's Egyptian.
The thing that the executioners use all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a massive damage, and it is mainly used for small medium. I mean, the damage you use it for any size, but the damage is actually focused on the small medium. The Khopesh here is only 7 pounds, but it is showing a weapon speed factor of 9 because of its size.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine.
It has the same speed of Falchion, a little less than a Falchion, but it's almost twice as slow.
And what's the damage on this?
It's 2d4 for damage for small medium, but it says here it's only 1d6 for large.
Huh.
I don't understand how a weapon of that size and girth could only do 1d6 for a large.
I have a feeling it's mostly for like reach.
Oh, mounting?
Yeah, dismounting or a reach weapon because it curves and it goes out a little, kind of way longer than a regular big sword.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's possible.
So you don't do as much, but you can get the guy in the back.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, with the two-handed swords, the Zweihanders and the Flamberges and the Claymores, you could easily put a small group of sword and borders, or swords and shields in front of you, and have another row of the long-reaching weapons behind. Or if you have an elf in the party or a dwarf with an axe in front, and you have a human with a two-hander behind, easily able to help in combat.
Now I got Crispy listening in here, and he says the law of averages on that sword is 2d4 equals 5 damage, 1d6 equals 3.5 damage. The difference of 1.5 damage versus large.
So I guess it's a smaller difference then.
Yeah.
Better average.
Yeah.
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 Still a formidable weapon.
Absolutely. What was that other one you mentioned a moment ago?
The Zweihander?
No,
the Claymore?
No, not the Claymore. No, not the Flambers. You mentioned another one there. We'll get it next time.
Okay, we'll get it next time.
Hey, I know you guys got big-ass swords out there. Why don't you tell us about it at THACO's Hammer with an O at gmail.com or at the Dragon's Foot Forum.
Also, if you have any characters out there that happens to use them and you have a nifty story about using their weapon, give us a call and let us know.
Or tips and techniques. That would
Absolutely.
be good, too. Do you have any tips and techniques?
Me personally?
Sure.
Me?
Yeah.
On the great swords, well, usually I do them as a second rank fighter. Usually I let the smaller, more tougher characters up front if they're smaller, and then usually wield it as a second line fighter.
You put the meat shield up front. So.
Absolutely. The other good way to use the great swordsman is to defend the back, actually. Defending the back, instead of having two smaller fighters defending the back and protecting the wizard and the cleric, you only need one fighter with a great weapon back there.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you have them using the weapon, because it is of length, it's a 6-foot weapon for the long swords, the two-handed swords, rather.
Right.
Just like somebody using a 6-foot pole to poke around for traps, it's a great prodding device.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And remember to carry the backup smaller weapons, too, for those small tunnel areas.
That is correct.
And now we are enough for that. Now we're going on a snipe hunt.
Snipe hunts.
If you only had a living brain.
What do you think? Escaped gorilla?
Listen, you're making enough noise to wake up the dead.
I don't have to wake him up. He's up.
It's time for a snipe hunt. Okay, snipe hunt. This is our monster section, and we got a goodie for Corey today. What do we got, Corey?
Today we have the Mighty Grell.
The Mighty Grell.
It is found on 173 of the Monstrous Manual and various other places. It's actually listed as...
Is what?
It's listed as 3 different types, but the Grell's a giant brain with a vicious beak and 10 descending tentacles dangling below it, about 6 feet long. I mean,
you think you have trouble with the Beholder, try one of these.
Absolutely. These are like the Beholder's evil cousins. They are a 5-hit dice monster, THACO 15, so you're looking at a 6-level fighter.
Wait. You're talking 5-hit die, is this like for the lowest one?
Absolutely, for the lowest one.
Okay, so it goes like, okay.
Yeah, they have three subcategories: the worker, the philosopher, and the patriarch. The worker is a 5-hit dice, the philosopher 7, and the patriarch 9. But even the worker is hitting at a 6-level fighter THACO, so you're looking at a 15 THACO. Now, a 6-level fighter in itself is pretty formidable, but add to it the fact that this creature actually has 11 attacks per round. That's with its tentacles.
Yeah, and if that ain't enough, it uses weapons too.
That is correct, Glenn.
Yes.
It actually can hold weapons in its tentacles and uses them at proficiency.
And what the philosophers have like equivalent of their second level wizard spells too?
Absolutely. Yep, that is correct. They are very formidable monsters. It says here their common strategy that they use its natural levitation ability to hide in the upper reaches of large chambers. It then drops down on the victim silently, and it suffers a -3 penalty to surprise rolls. Attacking with 10 tentacles per round, it grips, and each hit that it does with the tentacle, the victim must saving throw versus paralysis with a +4 bonus, or be paralyzed for 5d4 rounds. So that's 11 chances to paralyze an average group of, say, four characters.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a violent creature.
And this is a hive society, too.
That is correct. Yeah, they all follow the patriarch.
What kills me is it's just a high society, but they do have, like, rogue ones.
Yes.
Ugh.
It says here that the soldier grell, which is the workers, also you often use weapons, including the tip spear and the lightning lance. The lightning lance delivers 3d6 points of electrical damages to those hit with it. It starts with 36 charges. You can attack the tentacles and make them unusable, but then again, it has 11 of them, 11 attacks, so it's ridiculous.
Yeah. But here's the thing: you could take out a tentacle, but that doesn't subtract to the hit points of the grell.
Yes, it's the Energizer Bunny of monsters.
Not fair, man.
It has a 30 to 40 year lifespan, and it lays a clutch of 2d4 eggs. For those of you who enjoy the post combat looting, any wizard would probably pay a hefty sum for a grell egg. Often overlooked treasure when going into monster hordes.
That's true. It probably commands a high price.
Absolutely.
Yes. And what is it said? It goes into an area and totally devastates it.
It devastates its ecology.
Yeah, which is surprising to me. I mean, that's what a belay does. But belay has what? Low intelligence.
Yeah,
and these things up to the patriarch, which is super genius. It's like, you might not want to devastate the area.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're going to come back here or stay here for a while, I mean, you're pretty soon you're going to run out of places to destroy.
Yeah, raise the entire ecology and move on to the next spot.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it does.
I don't think they'd have any problems with taking over new spots either, due to their hive mind and the attacks that they have.
So how often have you used these monsters?
These are a common occurrence in my campaigns. There are, as one of my players put it, they're the cockroaches of Corey's Kingdoms. They never stop coming, and as it says, it lives in the loftier sections of the rooftops, hidden in shadow when it's nesting. So, any dungeon that is more than one level deep and might have vaulted ceilings in some rooms make a perfect place for the grell.
And your players have ceiling watch?
Absolutely. As soon as they walk into the room and they hear me describe the room and I say, it's a vaulted ceiling that disappears into darkness, immediately one of them shouts, "Who's on grell watch?" Yeah, one of them's always looking at the ceiling and watching for it.
So your land is pretty much devastated, most of it, huh?
Yeah, it's devastated, and it gets rebuilt by somebody else, and the grell turn around and go, "Oh, look, somebody fixed it. Let's go eat that again."
Grell with pet bullets. Ugh.
How about you? You see a use for this?
This
campaign?
is a new one. This was a new one to me. I think I saw it as, oh, that's pretty. But like I said, I usually stuck to like the orcs and the trolls and the goblins, and that's about it. Whatever I was using modules too, and whatever the module threw at me, I threw at the players.
Oh, okay.
Fortunately, they never. I understand this is one of the more prominent monsters in the Spelljammer campaign, in the Spelljammer world, also.
Right.
I noticed that they like to go into space. More worlds to decimate, I guess. I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah.
Conquering the universe one planet at a time, eating its way through the universe one planet at a time.
It's like a whole host of Galactuses.
Yeah.
God. But anyway, that's the Grell. Tell us how you use the Grell at THACO with an O's, hammer at gmail.com, or the Dragon's Foot 2nd Edition forum, where we'll be hanging out, and purpleworm.org. Well, I think that's about all we got this week, Corey.
Looks like we're at the end of the first episode.
Pretty soon. Okay, everybody take $500 each out of petty cash. Don't forget your dice. Don't forget your stuff. And we will see you next week, where we'll have the next module.
Sounds good.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Be sure to visit our website at thacoshammer.info. If you have any questions or comments, email us at thacoshammer@gmail.com. Remember, that's an O, not a 0. You can also leave us comments in the 2nd Edition forum at dragonsfoot.org. See you next time when the hammer comes down on THACO's Hammer.